Front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. What's the difference and which one should you buy? We're here today at DECA in Shepparton to put all three to the test. In response to an email from Julie who asked us, if I'm looking at getting a new car, which should I buy, front, rear or all-wheel drive, we've gathered up an example of each. We've also brought along former World Rally driver, Chris Atkinson.
Hey Dave, this should be a pretty fun day.
We've got two tests for each car to tackle, and each car will tackle each test twice. Once with stability control on and once with stability control off. Chris, can you tell us what the two tests will be today?
First, we've got a 90-degree corner, which we're going to tackle in the dry, and then second, we've got a high-speed emergency lane change, which we're going to tackle in the wet. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see how the cars perform.
And our three cars for today are one of the country's top-selling sports cars under 80k, the 1.6-litre front-wheel drive Hyundai Veloster SR Turbo, Australia's favourite homegrown rear-wheel drive hero, the Holden Commodore, here in VF Series 2 SS-V Redline guys, with a 6.2-litre LS3 V8 under the bonnet. And probably the most iconic all-wheel drive car of all time, the 2-litre turbo Subaru WRX. So Chris, should we start with the Hyundai?
Am I driving?
Yeah mate, you're driving.
Really?
Yes, that's why you're here. All right, so we're in the Hyundai Veloster SR Turbo, our front-wheel drive for today, and we're about to do run one with stability control on for test one. Can you tell us what we're about to do?
Yeah, we've got the 90-degree corner up here. I'm going to attack it a bit harder than you normally would. I'm going to turn in quite aggressively and try and accentuate what would happen in normal situations. When I get to the mid-corner, I'm going to hit the throttle a bit harder than normal and see what will happen, see how much the stability will kick in.
Sure, all right, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Try and get up to 60 pretty quickly. So I'll lift off, turn in, a little bit of understeer, back on the throttle, but no real reaction there.
Yep, and stability control flashing away.
Yeah, no, I hit the throttle even in the mid-corner, and because we're already sliding, the car sort of knew what we were doing, and it killed the power to the front wheels, and we're in control.
All right, so if we turn stability control off, we'll do exactly the same test and see if there's a difference.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. Obviously, we're expecting a little bit of understeer, but I'm going to remain sort of the same situation and not overreact, just sort of imagine you were doing it on the normal road and you got a bit of surprise, something was slippery, and see what happens. All right, let's go.
Up to
a bit more wheel speed straight away. Here we go. Turn in. Oh, a lot of understeer. So a huge difference there. So I tried to get on the throttle. Obviously the power went to the wheels that time, and then we had a big understeer. Just stayed on the road. But imagine if there's a tightening corner or something like that, we'd have been in the trees.
All right, on that note, should we move to the rear-wheel drive Holden Commodore and see how that goes? All right, so out of the Hyundai Veloster front-wheel drive and into the rear-wheel drive Holden Commodore with a 6.2-litre V8 under the bonnet. So this thing's got more than double the power and double the torque of the Veloster. How do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how much the traction control that power, and you've got a lot of weight in the car as well. So I'll try and keep everything the same and see what happens.
All right.
Let's go. So up to 60 again.
Sounds good.
It does sound good. Here we go, lift off, turn in, bit of understeer, but hard on the throttle, and it controlled pretty well.
Yeah, that was, not going to be mean, mate, but that was a bit boring.
Yeah, and I tried to give it everything she's got, but the traction worked pretty well there. It slipped a little bit initially, and then the rear was stepping out, but it caught it after that, and you really had no real drama to get around the corner.
All right, let's hit the magic button. You can push it, not me, so I can't get sued. And we'll do stability off.
All my risk.
Stability off for run 2 of test 1.
So you can imagine this is going to be a bit more exciting. Obviously I wouldn't recommend to do this on a normal road, but we're in a pretty safe environment here. Let's give it a go. So a bit of wheel spin off the line. Lift off, turn in, throttle.
Oh, yep.
That was a little bit more exciting. So you can see the traction control makes a huge difference in this car, especially when you put that power to the rear wheels. She just wants to step into oversteer straight away.
That's pretty phenomenal. Should we jump in the all-wheel drive Subaru? I'm curious how this is going to go.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Okay, last car for test 1. We've got the Subaru WRX and its symmetrical all-wheel drive system. Same again for you.
Yeah, let's try and keep this consistent. It's going to be interesting how this compares to the others, and we'll keep that stability on and see what happens.
Cool.
So off again and up to 60. I'm going to be pretty aggressive on this thing, see what happens. Turn in hard throttle. Bit of understeer, but pretty stable through it, but tending more towards understeer than oversteer, I have to say.
Again, lights flashing. How early do you feel it kicking in?
I went pretty hard on the throttle as all the other times as well, and it kicks in straight away, so there's no big delay, but you can just feel it fighting against that understeer that's there a little bit.
All right, so let's stability off for run 2.
There we go, our favourite little lights on. Here we go, up to 60 again.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, obviously off the line, the four-wheel drive gets you there quick, but a lift, turn, throttle. Oh, fair bit of understeer actually. Surprised by that. I expected a little bit of oversteer, but I would have headed off straight towards the camera and cleaned up the boys if I didn't jump on the brakes. So yeah, that was a lot more understeer than I expected.
So now that we've done those 3 cars, for me, from the passenger, it feels like the Hyundai probably cuts in the earliest with stability on and kind of manages things from then. What do you think?
Yeah, from a safety point of view, you see that kicks in straight away and really controls it and kills sort of any chance of you having an accident. When you look at the Holden, you're allowed to slide the car a little bit more from the rear, and then it kicks in and sort of gives you a bit of leeway. This sort of manages your speed quite well. It's almost like a sort of something you'd have in a race car, an active traction control, something like that, where you can still drive pretty fast without getting too out of control, but when you turn it off, it completely changes the dynamics of the car.
All right, so time to hose down the skid pan and move on to test 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, Chris, so test 1 all done in each of the cars. We're now on to test 2. Back in the Hyundai, the front wheel drive. Can you tell us again what we're doing here?
Yeah, we've got a high speed emergency lane change, so we're going to go a bit faster, up to 80k an hour this time, and we're going to imagine there's a car stopped in front of us. We're going to have to react and turn quickly to the right and straight up to the left, and we're going to leave it till the last minute to go on the brakes and see how the car handles it, first with the stability on and second without it on.
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. Get the Veloster up to a bit of speed, aiming at the cones, up to 80. And wow. I didn't even touch the brakes there.
Wow.
And it really controlled it. That's pretty impressive. Like, we left that to the last second to swerve, miss the cones, straighten it back up, and the car did the rest of the work for me. I just did the steering and it sorted it out for me.
That felt pretty good. Again, probably a little bit boring, which is kind of what we want in that sort of situation. So
yeah, we're on a slip, wet skid pan, and it's going to be tricky and probably the worst conditions you can nearly imagine.
All right, stability off, and let's give it a bell.
Here we go. This could be a bit more exciting. All right, up to 80 again. Let's see if we can hold our nerve. Up to 80.
Wow.
Well, there we go.
Yep.
So that was a bit more exciting.
It really does highlight, though, the difference with it on and off, probably more so than the first test, is just how much momentum is behind the car and the weight shift that's going on there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry when we're going to step into the Holden next, and you've got a lot of weight behind you. This moved around a lot. You could feel the rear was sliding, sitting up on the surface, and the weight was sitting over the nose, so that's why we had that sort of pendulum effect. I let it go a bit more than I probably should have, but it sort of showed what can happen, and you could easily go into a flat spin in that situation.
So speaking of which, the heavier Holden, we should probably give that a shot next. All right, so from the Hyundai, which is already pretty exciting, into the rear-wheel drive Holden, which I'm expecting to be more exciting. We've got more weight and obviously rear-wheel drive now, so I guess we're in your hands.
Yeah, this will be interesting for sure. Traction will be the issue, but see how it changes direction. I'm a little bit nervous.
All right,
let's go. So I already got some lack of traction in the rear, coming up to 80. Oh. That's not bad.
No, that felt pretty stable from here.
Yeah, like I threw it in pretty hard, turning right there, and as I came back across, straightened it up. The car did the rest of the work for me. I barely touched the brake, and it straightened up, and I was able to slow down pretty easily.
All right, let's see what that weight's going to do with stability control off. Do you want to hit the button?
I think it's your turn this time. Then I don't have to take the blame if something goes wrong.
Sure, mate, you're driving. All right, now I think this is about 1,800 odd kilos of Aussie muscle car, so good luck.
Yeah, I think I need it. Here we go. It's a bit less traction. that rear does want to go. But to be fair, it wasn't as bad to control as I expected. So there's a lot of weight there, and if you do get that momentum shift, then it's going to slide. But the difference when you have traction and stability control on compared to off is massive in those conditions.
And it just felt, even then, actually, the weight was a bit of an advantage, at least in that situation, to keep it under control.
The car feels like it's got it pretty well, all four wheels planted, and got good grip considering the size and the weight and the power of the car. So it's surprising that it did handle it so well.
I'm curious how the Subaru all-wheel drive will go. So let's jump back into that and have a crack.
Yep.
So second last run of today, we've got test 2 stability on in the Subaru WRX. Now this car kind of surprised you a bit in the 90-degree bend, so how are you feeling going into the high-speed lane change?
Yeah, it'll be interesting actually. I'm not sure what to expect. We had more understeer than I did expect when we were around that corner with the stability off, and with the stability on, it was actually pretty good through the corner, and it controlled it quite well. So we'll see what happens now. We'll get this car moving and
okay. I'm belted up.
You
so
ready?
Let's go. Yep.
Here we go. It's up to 80 again. Aiming in at the cones. Here we go. Wow, that's pretty good. They've all been impressive, but there was no overreaction at all. Like I'm pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, that was pretty neat and tidy, wasn't it?
Yeah, like I was running dead on 80, swerve right, and put a fair bit of input in, and when I straightened up, I didn't even have to worry about touching the brake. It did it all itself.
Okay, let's kill the stability control and see just what that all-wheel drive system makes of this. See if we get some of that understeer or not.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that in the 90-degree corner, but we'll see what happens here. You right?
Yep.
Right. Right, back up to our speed.
Still pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah, it accelerates well. Okay, on to 80.
Wow.
That's not bad, is it?
There's a little bit of movement out of the back that I felt.
Yeah, a little bit of a fraction of oversteer, but at 80 k an hour on a wet, slippery road and changing direction, and I pretty much barely had to do any correction at all.
That was pretty impressive. So now that we've done all 3 cars on both tests, what's your impression of the day, and how much has the cars and stability control impressed you?
It's funny how it's such a big difference in some cars and other cars not as big a difference. In the Veloster, you've got a big difference between having it on and off, and it really works well in the Veloster. You hop into the Holden, and even with it on, you can slide the car around. It moves around a fair bit. You turn it off and it really wants to slide around and move a lot. And the Subaru, especially in the lane change, there's barely any difference between having stability, and I guess that's the all-wheel drive system working well, and that's what it's designed for. I was a little bit shocked when we were driving in the 90-degree corner, and that the car had a lot of understeer, and I haven't experienced so much of that before in the Subaru, so I'm a bit surprised by that. But when you had it on, it actually worked a bit like a race car in terms of controlling the speed and not just killing the power like it does, say, in the Holden.
For me, just having a professional racing driver show the difference as well, and obviously you can control the car in that situation, but it just hammers home just exactly how good stability control is to control a situation that is difficult or emergency. All of them were just no fuss with stability on. You know, even if they did quite well with stability off, there's no drama at all with stability on. It's impressive, the technology.
Yeah, like you see all 3 cars, completely different drive systems, drive lines, and they're all very similar when you've got the stability control on. So everyone really should have it on most of the time when they're driving. It's only in situations like this where you can have a bit of room to play and explore the car that it's safe. And you can't imagine how many lives it must have saved having stability control on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a good day. I managed to keep my lunch down, and we learnt something along the way. Thanks heaps again for coming along and helping us out today.
Yeah, it was an awesome day. I really enjoyed that. I think everyone will get something out of it, so thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Well, there you have it. While clearly we saw today that drivetrain layout does have an impact on vehicle dynamics, when it comes to new cars, whether it's front, rear or all-wheel drive, with the stability systems left on, the difference really isn't that great. Remember, if there's anything you'd like to know or like us to check out for you, you can always contact us at CarAdvice via the website, caradvice.com.au.